Golden Crest Logistics had been the lifeblood of the town for over a decade. Nestled on the outskirts of Chicago, it wasn't just a company. It was a family. At least, that's what Martin Galloway, the owner, always believed. He had built the business from the ground up, employing dozens of workers who depended on him. Some had been with him from the start, earning his trust. But trust can be a fatal mistake. It began with whispers in the break room. Late-night discussions in hushed tones. Jealousy over Galloway's wealth. A plan formed among a few men and women who had once been nothing but grateful employees. Their motives varied. Greed, desperation, resentment. It started with small thefts, money siphoned from accounts, missing shipments. But soon, ambition turned to murder. One night, when Galloway stayed late to finalize accounts, they struck. 3 men, Luis Carter, the warehouse manager, Devin Briggs, the head of security, and Claire Monroe, a financial officer, waited in the shadows of his office. Luis was the first to speak. "This is just business, Martin," he murmured as Devin locked the door behind them. Galloway barely had time to stand before Claire drove a knife into his side. A quick, calculated stab. Shock crossed his face as he gasped for air. Devin moved in, his hands tightening around Galloway's throat, squeezing the last bit of life from him. It was over in seconds. They wrapped his body in plastic, transported him to the warehouse, and made it look like an accident. A forklift malfunction. No one questioned it. The coroner ruled it a workplace accident. Everything had gone according to plan. But one thing they hadn't counted on: Galloway had told his brother, Jonathan, about his wealth, his accounts, and the company finances just weeks before his death. And Jonathan was no fool. Days after Galloway's funeral, Claire drained the company's main account. $5 million. Gone. Devin and Luis took their shares, along with the others involved. They thought they were in the clear. Until Jonathan called. "I need to see the company records." Jonathan's voice was calm but firm. "Martin and I spoke not long before his death. He told me about his investments, his money. Now it's missing." Claire tightened her grip on the phone. "I'm sure it's just a banking delay," she lied. "Let me look into it." Jonathan wasn't convinced. He flew in the next day, walking into the company office with quiet authority. He was nothing like his brother. Where Martin had been kind and trusting, Jonathan was sharp, analytical. He began going through the books, and it didn't take long before he spotted discrepancies. The moment he involved the police, the cracks in their crime began to show. Detectives started asking questions. Who had access to the company funds? Why had Claire moved large sums of money right after Martin's death? The pressure mounted, and paranoia crept in among the conspirators. Luis called Claire late one night. "We have a problem. Jonathan's not letting this go." "I know," she whispered. "We stay calm. We stick to the story." But not all of them had the same resolve. The first body was found 3 days later. Hector Ramirez, a dock worker who had been in on the plan but had started panicking under pressure. He was found in his apartment, stabbed 7 times. The message was clear: talk, and you die. The others got the warning loud and clear. Fear spread among the conspirators. Detectives weren't blind. They started piecing together the connection between Hector and Galloway's death. Then, another worker disappeared. Lisa Powell, a clerk in the financial department, never showed up to work. Her car was found abandoned near the river. Jonathan knew this wasn't coincidence. "They're killing each other off," he told Detective Monroe. And then, late one evening, Jonathan found something. Hidden records, an offshore account Martin had set up as a backup in case of fraud. The account held proof of everything. Transactions, withdrawals, the very names of the people who had stolen from him. He had just finished reading the documents when the power in his motel room cut out. A shadow moved outside his window. Then came the knock at the door. Jonathan reached for his phone to call the police, but it was too late. The door burst open. Jonathan barely had time to react. The door burst open, slamming against the wall with a deafening crack. A masked figure lunged toward him, but Jonathan had instincts. honed from years of working in high-stakes business deals where deception was a constant threat. He rolled off the bed just as a blade slashed through the air where his throat had been moments before. His attacker wasted no time. They charged at him again, knife gleaming in the dim glow of the streetlights filtering through the window. Jonathan grabbed the bedside lamp and hurled it, hitting the intruder square in the face. A grunt of pain. Male. Deep voice. The impact gave Jonathan the moment he needed to sprint toward the door. His fingers barely touched the doorknob when an arm wrapped around his throat, yanking him back. The blade pressed against his neck, the sharp tip just grazing his skin. "Stay still," a voice hissed. Jonathan's mind raced. The motel room was dark, but he had gotten a good look at the figure's build. Tall, broad shoulders. Whoever it was, they were strong, but Jonathan had been in enough brawls growing up to know how to fight back. He let his body go limp. Caught off guard by the sudden weight shift, the attacker lost their grip. Jonathan twisted free, elbowed the man hard in the ribs, and dove for the bathroom, slamming the door shut. His heart pounded as he fumbled for his phone. He dialed 911. The door cracked open just as he hit the final digit. But outside, sirens wailed in the distance. The attacker froze. A choice. Fight or flee. The hesitation lasted only a second before the masked figure turned and bolted through the window, vanishing into the night. Jonathan staggered out of the bathroom, panting. The motel door was still ajar, swaying slightly. He locked it, then sank onto the bed. His hands trembled as he picked up the documents he had found, the ones detailing the stolen money, the offshore account, and the names of the people responsible. Whoever had come for him knew he had this information, and they were willing to kill for it. By morning, Detective Monroe was at the scene. She examined the scattered papers while Jonathan sat on the edge of the bed, still shaken. "You're lucky you called when you did," she said, flipping through the documents. "If the sirens hadn't scared them off, you'd be a corpse." Jonathan exhaled sharply. "I need protection. They know I have proof." Monroe nodded. "We'll put you under surveillance, but Jonathan, we need more than financial records. We need a name." Jonathan swallowed hard. "I have a strong suspicion. Claire Monroe, the finance officer. She was one of the last people to see my brother alive, and the money trail leads back to accounts she controlled." Monroe's jaw tightened. "She's on our radar, but she's careful. No direct evidence yet." Jonathan frowned. "Then we make her slip up." Monroe looked at him, intrigued. "What do you have in mind?" Claire Monroe prided herself on control. She had orchestrated Martin's murder with precision, ensuring no loose ends. But now, Jonathan was stirring up trouble. And worse, someone had tried to kill him and failed. She sat in her office, staring at her computer screen, fingers drumming against the desk. A sudden notification popped up on her email. "Urgent. Bank alert. Suspicious transaction." She clicked it. "Dear Ms. Monroe, a large sum of $500,000 has been flagged from the offshore account in question. Authorities have been notified." Her heart slammed against her ribs. Someone was moving the money. She picked up the phone and dialed Luis Carter. He answered on the first ring. "Have you seen the bank alert?" she hissed. "Yeah," Luis said, voice tight. "We need to meet. Now." "Where?" "The docks. Usual spot. We can't talk over the phone." She hung up, grabbed her coat, and left. Jonathan and Detective Monroe watched from an unmarked police car as Claire's sleek black sedan pulled up to the deserted dockside. Luis Carter was already there, pacing. Jonathan leaned forward. "This is it." Monroe held up a hand. "Let's see what they say first." Claire stepped out, walking briskly toward Luis. "Tell me you moved the money," she snapped. Luis shook his head. "I didn't touch it." Claire's expression darkened. "Then who did?" Luis hesitated, glancing around. "Look, this is getting out of hand. First Hector, then Lisa." Claire's hand shot out, gripping his wrist. "Don't say their names." Luis wrenched away. It's only a matter of time before the cops piece it together. You think they don't suspect us already? Claire's voice was ice. We clean this up, or we go down. Suddenly, a rustling sound. Claire and Louise stiffened. From the shadows, a figure stepped forward. Devin Briggs, the security officer. Only something was different. His usual cool demeanor was gone, replaced by a twisted, almost manic smile. You two are pathetic, he muttered. Claire tensed. What are you talking about? Devin took a slow step closer. You actually think the police are the biggest problem? Louise and Claire exchanged a wary glance. I know who moved the money, Devin continued. I did. Claire's blood ran cold. You what? Devin grinned. I took the money and made sure the trail leads straight to you. Louise cursed. You're insane. Devin pulled out a gun. You don't get it, do you? You're loose ends. Hector and Lisa were weak. Now it's your turn. Claire's eyes darted around for an escape. Bang! A single shot rang out. Louise staggered backward, blood blooming across his chest. He crumpled to the ground. Claire turned to run. Another shot. Pain exploded in her shoulder, sending her sprawling. From the police car, Jonathan clenched his fists. We have to move now. Monroe already had her gun drawn. Go, go, go. The second Devin saw the flashing red and blue lights, he took off running. Claire, bleeding but alive, struggled to stand. Jonathan rushed to her, pressing down on her wound to stop the bleeding. Claire gasped. He set us up. Monroe and the officers chased Devin through the dockyard. He fired blindly behind him, but he was outnumbered. He disappeared into a warehouse. The police closed in, surrounding the building. Monroe grabbed her radio. Briggs, you're done. Come out. Silence. And a chilling laugh echoed from inside. Jonathan's blood turned to ice. Monroe motioned for her officers to move in, weapons raised. They stepped inside, and what they found sent a wave of horror through them all. Hanging from the ceiling were 3 more bodies, workers from Golden Crest. A message was smeared in blood across the wall. The game isn't over. And Devin was nowhere to be found. Jonathan felt a chill run down his spine. The mastermind was still out there. Watching. Waiting. The air inside the warehouse was thick with the scent of rust and something far worse. Death. The bodies swayed slightly from the rafters, their vacant eyes staring down like silent witnesses to their own murders. Detective Monroe stood frozen, her gun still raised, her breath caught in her throat. Jesus Christ! Jonathan swallowed the bile rising in his throat. His gaze locked onto the bloody message smeared across the wall. The game isn't over. It wasn't just a warning, it was an invitation. Suddenly, Monroe's radio crackled. We have movement. West exit. Jonathan and Monroe spun toward the sound of distant footsteps. Move. Monroe ordered, her officers rushing toward the back of the warehouse. But as they stormed through the exit, the night swallowed Devin whole. He was gone. Jonathan clenched his fists. This bastard is playing with us. Monroe exhaled sharply. Then let's change the rules. 2 days later, the city was in chaos. News of the warehouse murders had spread, igniting a media frenzy. The Golden Crest scandal was no longer a quiet investigation. It was now the biggest crime story in the state. Claire Monroe, recovering from her gunshot wound, sat under heavy police guard in the hospital. She was the only conspirator left in custody. But as Jonathan and Monroe questioned her, it was clear, Claire was just as terrified as they were. You don't understand, she whispered, her face pale. Devin, he was always the muscle, but he wasn't the one pulling the strings. Jonathan frowned. What do you mean? Claire swallowed hard. He took the money. But he's not the mastermind. Monroe's expression darkened. Then who is? Claire hesitated. I don't know. But Devin was getting orders from someone. Someone higher up. Jonathan exchanged a look with Monroe. The deeper they dug, the darker this conspiracy became. From a hotel suite overlooking the city, a man in an expensive suit sipped whiskey, watching the news unfold on the massive flat-screen TV. The headlines flashed, "Warehouse Massacre, Hunt for Devin Briggs continues." A slow smile spread across his lips. Everything was falling into place. A knock at the door. "Enter." The door opened, and a man in a hoodie stepped in. He was nervous, shifting from foot to foot. "Sir, it's done. The police think Devin's the main guy." The suited man nodded. "Good. And Jonathan? Still alive?" The man swirled his glass. "A shame. I really thought Devin would finish the job." The hooded man hesitated. "Should we take him out?" The man's smile widened. "Not yet. Let him dig. The deeper he goes, the better for us." A moment of silence. And Devin?" the hooded man asked. The man's gaze darkened. "Kill him." Devin ran. The abandoned railway yard was his last refuge, a forgotten place where no one would think to look for him. Or so he thought. He crouched in the shadows, gun clutched tightly in his shaking hands. His heart pounded. He had been careful. No phones, no trails. And yet, something gnawed at him. He wasn't safe. A twig snapped. Devin spun, gun raised. Too late. The first bullet hit his leg, sending him crashing to the ground. He gritted his teeth, pain searing through him. A figure emerged from the darkness. The hooded man. "Boss sends his regards," the man murmured. Devin's breath hitched. "You don't have to do this," he rasped. The hooded man smiled. "Actually, I do." The last thing Devin heard was the click of the gun. And darkness. Jonathan stood in the police station, staring at the whiteboard covered in names, photos, and red lines connecting the chaos. Devin Briggs was now dead. But the real mastermind? Still in the shadows. Monroe approached, arms crossed. "We're missing something." Devin was dangerous, but he wasn't smart enough to pull all the strings. Jonathan exhaled. Which means someone else was. And they just tied up another loose end. Monroe nodded. "And we're next." Just then, a call came in. The officer at the desk frowned, then turned to Monroe. "It's for you. Says it's urgent." She took the phone. "Detective Monroe." A deep, silky voice came through the line. "Detective. Jonathan. You've been quite the nuisance." Jonathan froze. Monroe tightened her grip on the phone. "Who is this?" A low chuckle. "Let's just say, I've been watching. And it's time to end the game." A pause. "Meet me at the old mill. Midnight. Come alone. Or Jonathan dies." The line went dead. Jonathan's blood ran cold. Monroe met his gaze. "It's a trap." Jonathan swallowed. "I know." A heavy silence. Then Monroe reached for her gun. "Let's spring it." The old mill stood like a rotting carcass on the outskirts of the city. Silent, abandoned, and reeking of forgotten sins. The air was thick with the stench of damp wood and rusted metal, the wind whispering through shattered windows like ghosts warning them to turn back. Jonathan Galloway and Detective Monroe stood at the entrance, their nerves steel but their instincts screaming danger. "Last chance to walk away," Monroe murmured, gripping her gun tighter. Jonathan shook his head. "I finish this tonight." She nodded. "Then we play it smart. No heroics." They stepped inside. A single overhead light flickered in the cavernous space, illuminating a metal chair in the center of the floor. A man sat there, hands folded in his lap, exuding a quiet confidence that sent ice through Jonathan's veins. The mastermind. The true devil behind it all. He smiled. "Jonathan. Detective. So nice of you to join me." Jonathan clenched his fists. "Who the hell are you?" The man tilted his head, amusement dancing in his dark eyes. "You don't recognize me?" Jonathan's breath caught. He did. Buried deep in the recesses of memory. Business meetings, negotiations, handshakes over whiskey. Daniel Whitaker. A longtime investor in Golden Crest. A silent partner. A wolf in their den the entire time. Surprised. Whitaker smirked. Martin never saw it coming either. Jonathan's jaw tightened. You killed my brother? Whitaker chuckled. No. Jonathan. Your brother was doomed the moment he thought honesty could survive in a world built on corruption. Monroe lifted her gun. Why steal from your own investment? Whitaker leaned back. Because I wanted all of it. Martin was too noble. He never understood that real money is made in the shadows. So, I played the long game. Jonathan's voice was like gravel. You manipulated them. Devon, Claire, Luis. They were your pawns. Whitaker spread his arms. And when pawns outlive their usefulness, they're removed from the board. Monroe's finger tightened on the trigger. You're coming with us. Whitaker sighed. Detective, did you really think I'd invite you here without an escape plan? Before they could react, the lights cut out. Gunfire erupted. Jonathan dove for cover as bullets tore through the mill. Muzzle flashes lit the darkness, revealing shadowy figures moving in, Whitaker's men. Monroe fired back, dropping one, then another. Jonathan, get to cover. But Jonathan had only one thought. Whitaker. Through the chaos, he spotted him slipping toward a back exit. Not this time, Jonathan growled, sprinting after him. The chase led them through a maze of rusted machinery, the sounds of gunfire and screams fading behind them. Whitaker shoved open a door leading to the upper levels of the mill, Jonathan hot on his heels. The stairwell creaked under their weight as they ascended to a rickety catwalk hanging over the factory floor. You don't have to do this, Jonathan shouted. Whitaker laughed. Oh, Jonathan, but I do. He turned suddenly, a gun in his hand. Jonathan barely ducked in time as the bullet whizzed past his ear. Jonathan tackled him. The gun skittered across the catwalk. They struggled, fists flying, old steel groaning beneath them. And, crack, the rusted bolts gave way. The catwalk tilted. Whitaker's eyes widened as the ground beneath him vanished. He grabbed onto the railing, feet dangling over the abyss. Jonathan scrambled to grab his arm. For a moment, their eyes met. Pull me up, Whitaker gasped. You're not a killer, Jonathan. Jonathan's grip tightened. Then his gaze drifted down, past Whitaker's struggling form, to the knife in Whitaker's free hand. Whitaker lunged. Jonathan let go. Whitaker's scream echoed through the mill as he plunged. The sickening crunch of bone and steel was the only sound left. Then, silence. By the time Jonathan made it back down, the police had arrived. Monroe was bruised but alive. Whitaker's men were either dead or in custody. It was over. Jonathan stood over Whitaker's broken body, a man who had played the game of power and lost. Is this justice? Jonathan asked quietly. Monroe holstered her gun. Sometimes, justice and survival are the same thing. Jonathan nodded, but deep down he knew nothing about this was justice. Days passed, then weeks. Golden Crest was dismantled. The truth was exposed. But closure was a lie. Jonathan stood at Martin's grave, the wind cold against his skin. I avenged you, he murmured. But I don't know if I saved anything. A voice broke the silence. You survived. That's enough. Monroe stood beside him. Jonathan exhaled. And what now? Monroe gave a small smile. Now, you learn to live with it. Jonathan stared at the name etched into stone. Martin Galloway. A brother. A victim. A man who believed in loyalty, only to be betrayed by those closest to him. Jonathan turned away, stepping into a world that had changed forever. Because, in the end, blood money always comes at a cost. And no one leaves clean. Subscribe to Whispers of Crime so you don't miss out on our chilling stories. Till we meet again, stay vigilant and stay safe.